On your knees. You don't look like the kind who owns a car like this. Officer Calvin Reese's voice cut through the hum of the pumps as his hand slammed into Lena Brooks' shoulder, forcing her down. But before her knees hit the asphalt, her fingers slipped into her coat pocket. One quick, precise motion, and she pressed a hidden emergency dial. Then the impact came, rough concrete biting through fabric as her keys skidded away and Reese kicked them aside like they were evidence. "I've seen this before," he said louder, playing to the growing audience. "Borrowed car, fake story, and suddenly you're the victim." Her registration was already in his hand. Valid, clean, and he crushed it anyway, snapping the cuffs tighter around her wrists as if force could make his version true. Lena didn't resist, didn't argue, just watched him with unsettling calm. Reese smirked, convinced he was in control, completely unaware that the signal she triggered seconds earlier was already moving faster than anything he could stop. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. The sun cast long shadows across the gas station's weathered concrete as Lena Brooks guided her dark blue sedan into an empty spot near pump number 4. The day's heat still lingered, making the air shimmer above the asphalt. Her fingers drummed briefly on the steering wheel as she noted the few locals scattered around the station, their eyes tracking her movements before she even opened her door. She'd driven this route dozens of times before, usually with Garrett, but today she was making the journey alone before meeting him at the military family scholarship banquet. The station's fluorescent lights buzzed to life overhead, creating harsh pools of artificial brightness that competed with the golden hour sunlight. A red pickup truck idled near the store entrance, its driver watching her through the rearview mirror. Lena gathered her wallet and stepped out of the car, her movements measured and dignified. The click of her sensible shoes against the pavement seemed unnaturally loud in the heavy afternoon air. She'd spent decades in military intelligence. She knew when she was being watched, knew how to read a situation. Right now, every instinct told her this stop wouldn't be as simple as she'd hoped. Inside the store, the air conditioning hit her like a wall. The linoleum floors gleamed with fresh mopping, and the coffee machine gurgled in the corner. Behind the counter, a woman with graying hair and a name tag reading Lorna Tate straightened up, her expression shifting from bored to alert. "Afternoon," Lena said pleasantly, selecting a bottle of water from the cooler and filling a coffee cup for the road. When she approached the counter, Lorna's eyes narrowed slightly. "Will that be all?" she asked, her tone carrying an edge that didn't match the simple question. "Yes, thank you." Lena placed her items down and pulled out her wallet. "Pump 4 as well, please." She handed over her ID with the cash, watching as Lorna studied the license far longer than necessary, turning it over multiple times. The cashier's fingers lingered on the federal clearance marker visible in the corner. "Something wrong?" Lena asked calmly. No, Lorna replied quickly, too quickly, handing back the ID. "That'll be with the gas." Lena counted out cash, maintaining her composed demeanor despite the growing tension. As she gathered her items and headed for the door, she heard the distinct sound of a phone being picked up behind her. Outside, the temperature had barely dropped, but a new heaviness hung in the air. The man from the red pickup had gotten out and was leaning against his truck, making no effort to hide his staring. Lena began pumping her gas, her movements efficient and practiced. "Don't look like she belongs in that car," the man muttered, loud enough to carry across the concrete. A few other customers nodded in agreement. Lena kept her eyes on the pump's digital display, refusing to give them the reaction they wanted. She'd faced far worse in her career: tense operations, hostile interrogations, direct threats. This kind of small-town intimidation was amateur hour in comparison. Still, she noted every detail, every face, every word. Habits ingrained from years of intelligence work. The sound of approaching sirens cut through the humid air. 2 patrol cars pulled into the station, lights flashing but sirens cutting off as they parked at angles that effectively boxed in her sedan. Officer Calvin Reese emerged from the first vehicle, his hand already resting on his belt as he approached. His face wore an expression Lena had seen countless times before, someone who'd already made up his mind before hearing a single word. "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle," Reese called out, his voice carrying that particular tone of authority that expected immediate compliance. "Is there a problem, officer?" Lena asked, maintaining her position but keeping her hands visible. "Had a report of suspicious activity," Reese said, moving closer. "Need to see some ownership papers for this vehicle. Why are you lingering here?" "I'm not lingering, officer. I'm pumping gas, as you can see." Lena's voice remained steady and clear. "The ownership papers are in the glove compartment. Would you like me to retrieve them?" "I said step away from the vehicle," Reese repeated, his hand shifting slightly on his belt. "You're being evasive." From the second patrol car, Officer Brent Lang approached with noticeably more caution, his younger face showing hints of uncertainty as he took in the scene. His eyes moved between Lena's composed stance and Reese's aggressive posture. Lena stood perfectly still, her mind already cataloging every detail of this encounter. Reese's badge number, the patrol car numbers, the gathering crowd of onlookers with their phones partially hidden, the security cameras mounted on the station's corners. She'd learned long ago that in situations like this, control came not from immediate reaction, but from careful observation and documentation. The gas pump clicked off, the sound sharp in the tense atmosphere. The golden sunlight had shifted to deeper amber, casting long shadows across the scene. As Reese took another step forward, his stance widening as if preparing for resistance that Lena hadn't shown. The metal of the gas pump felt cool against Lena's palm as she carefully replaced the nozzle. Officer Calvin Reese moved with exaggerated authority, positioning himself between her and the driver's side door of her sedan. His boots scraped against the concrete as he widened his stance, one hand still hovering near his belt. "We've had reports of a suspicious vehicle matching this description," Reese announced, his voice carrying across the parking lot. "Care to explain what you're doing in our town?" "I'm passing through on my way to an event," Lena replied evenly. "What specific law have I broken, Officer Reese?" His jaw tightened at her direct question. Behind him, Officer Lang shifted his weight, eyes darting between the growing crowd near the convenience store entrance and Lena's calm demeanor. Several phones had appeared, held at waist level but clearly recording. "Ma'am, we'll ask the questions here," Reese snapped. "Your attitude isn't helping." "I'm simply asking what law I've broken," Lena repeated, her voice remaining steady. "That's a reasonable question, isn't it?" Reese's face darkened. "This kind of defiance—" "The registration," Lang cut in, his voice notably softer than his partner's. "Could you tell us where to find the vehicle registration, ma'am?" "It's in the glove compartment," Lena said, keeping her hands visible at her sides, "along with all other relevant documentation." "Don't move," Reese ordered sharply, though Lena hadn't shifted an inch. "Keep those hands where I can see them." Through the storefront windows, Lena could see Lorna Tate watching intently, phone still in hand. The realization crystallized. The call had been made before any legitimate concern could have existed, before she'd done anything but exist in a space they'd decided wasn't meant for her. Reese circled the sedan like a predator, making a show of examining every detail. "Vehicle matches the description exactly," he declared, though he hadn't specified what description or from where. "What description would that be?" Lena asked. "There you go again, questioning authority," Reese said. "Every time you speak, you're demonstrating non-compliance." The evening air had grown heavier, charged with tension. More vehicles had pulled into the station, their occupants emerging with poorly concealed interest in the unfolding scene. Lena counted at least 5 phones recording now, not including whatever footage the station's security cameras were capturing. Reese yanked open the driver's side door, leaning in to pop the glove compartment. Papers rustled as he pulled out her registration and other documents. His expression shifted slightly as he examined her federal retiree credentials, the official seals and clearance markers unmistakable even in the fading light. Lang edged closer, peering at the documents. "Sir, these appear to match." "Could be forged," Reese cut him off. But there was a new note in his voice, not uncertainty, but something worse: determination. "In fact, this makes the situation more serious. These are high-level credentials. What are you doing with them?" "Those are my legitimate credentials," Lena stated. "As you can see from the photos and dates, they're mine." "You expect me to believe someone like you has this level of clearance?" Reese's emphasis on "someone like you" hung in the air, heavy with implication. A murmur went through the crowd. Someone whispered, "She's awful calm for someone with something to hide." Another voice responded, "Or awful calm for someone who knows she's right." "Officer," Lena said, her voice carrying clearly across the parking lot, "I'm going to say this one more time. Those are my legitimate credentials. I've broken no laws. Your suspicions are based on assumptions, not evidence." Reese's face flushed red. "Turn around and place your hands behind your back." "On what charge?" "Impersonating federal personnel," he snapped. "Using forged documents, resisting an officer." "I haven't resisted anything," Lena noted calmly. "And those documents are genuine, as any check will confirm." "Turn around," Reese repeated, pulling his handcuffs free. "Do it now or we'll add another charge." Lena met his gaze steadily, then turned, keeping her movements slow and deliberate. The crowd had grown silent, phones still recording as the handcuffs clicked into place around her wrists. The metal was cold against her skin, but her expression remained unchanged. "You're making a serious mistake," she said quietly. "Keep talking," Reese replied, tightening the cuffs a notch further than necessary. "Just keep digging that hole deeper." Officer Lang stood to the side, his discomfort now visible as he watched Reese grab Lena's arm. The younger officer's hand moved toward his own phone, then dropped away, his face a mask of indecision. The gas station's lights had fully taken over from the setting sun, casting harsh fluorescent shadows across the scene. In the store window, Lorna Tate had finally turned away, perhaps realizing that her call had set in motion something larger than she had intended. The crowd's phones continued recording, capturing every moment as Reese made a show of checking the cuffs one final time. The fluorescent lights of the gas station canopy cast harsh shadows across Lena's face as she stood beside the patrol car, her wrists secured behind her back. Her handbag vibrated against the hood where Reese had tossed it, likely Garrett wondering why she hadn't checked in. Around her the crowd had grown, their phones raised like digital witnesses to her humiliation. "Let's see what else you're hiding," Reese announced, dumping the contents of her purse onto the hood. Lipstick, tissues, and her wallet clattered across the metal surface. Her phone kept buzzing. Lena watched him sort through her belongings with theatrical suspicion, her mind already working several steps ahead. Years in military intelligence had taught her to stay calm in crisis, to see opportunities others missed. While Reese made a show of examining her chapstick for hidden compartments, she shifted her weight, angling herself toward her phone. "These credit cards, we'll need to verify every single one. It just suits," Reese declared, spreading them across the hood. "Could all be stolen." "Those cards match the name on my ID," Officer Lang pointed out, his voice carrying an edge of uncertainty. "And the federal credentials look real, the watermarks, the security features." "Could all be faked," Reese cut him off. "You'd be amazed what criminals can do these days." Lena's phone buzzed again. Reese glanced at it with annoyance, then turned a rifle through her car's center console. The moment his back was turned, she moved. With practiced precision, she bumped her hip against the hood, causing her phone to slide closer. Years of training let her activate the emergency protocol through the lock screen with 2 quick taps, a safety feature she and Garrett had set up for traveling spouses of high-ranking officers. The signal would reach Garrett's security detail within seconds. She'd never had to use it before, but she knew exactly what would happen next. The protocol would trigger an alert showing her GPS location, the time, and a snapshot from her phone's camera, capturing the patrol car, the handcuffs, everything. "What are you doing?" Reese demanded, spinning back around. "Standing exactly where you put me," Lena replied evenly. "Officer, you're making a mistake that will reach well beyond your local chain of command." Reese laughed, but there was an edge to it. "More threats? More name-dropping?" He snatched up her phone, shoving it into his pocket. "Let me guess. You know important people. They'll be very angry about this." "I don't make threats, Lena said. "I'm simply stating facts." Lang had picked up her federal credentials again, studying them with growing concern. "Sir, these really do look authentic. The holographic seals, the security threading. This level of documentation isn't something you typically see." "Did I ask for your opinion?" Reese snapped. "No, sir, but—" "Then secure the scene and manage that crowd. I'll handle this situation." The younger officer hesitated, then moved toward the onlookers, his posture radiating discomfort. Several people had their phones pointed directly at him now, capturing his obvious reluctance to participate. Less than moments had passed since the handcuffs clicked shut, when the radio on Reese's shoulder crackled to life. The voice that came through wasn't the usual local dispatch. "Unit 47, confirm current status of detainee Lena Brooks." "Over." Reese frowned, keying his radio. "Dispatch, Unit 47, handling a suspicious person with probable forged federal credentials. Situation under control." "Negative, Unit 47. Please verify. Do you currently have Lena Brooks in custody? This is a priority verification request. Authentication code Echo 79 Delta." Inside the Pentagon, Garrett Brooks stood in his dress uniform, staring at the alert on his secure phone. The image showed his wife of decades handcuffed beside a patrol car, her dignity intact despite the obvious humiliation. His jaw tightened as he read the GPS coordinates. Back at the gas station, confusion crossed Reese's face as he tried to make sense of the unusual radio traffic. "Dispatch, please repeat authentication code." "Unit 47, this is a federal priority channel override. Confirm status of Lena Brooks immediately." Lena watched Reese's expression shift from confusion to the first flickers of worry. She could almost see him trying to process how quickly this had escalated beyond his control. His hand moved to his radio, then dropped away as if unsure how to respond. "Sir," Lang called from near the crowd, "there's something else, the credentials. They're showing active in the federal database. I just ran them." Reese's face flushed red. Rather than acknowledge the mounting evidence, he grabbed Lena's arm roughly. "Get in the car. We'll sort this out at the station." "That would be unwise," Lena said calmly. "Shut up," Reese snarled, yanking open the rear door. "You don't give the orders here." With firm hands, he pushed her into the back seat, not bothering to ensure she could sit comfortably with her hands cuffed behind her. The door slammed shut with unnecessary force, sealing her in the cage-divided space. "Unit 47, respond immediately regarding status of Lena Brooks," the radio insisted. Reese ignored it, jumping into the driver's seat. "Lang, we're moving out now." The patrol car's tires crunched over gravel as they pulled away from the gas station. Through the reinforced glass partition, Lena watched Reese's shoulders tense, rigid with anger. The handcuffs bit into her wrists, but she kept her breathing steady, her face composed. The radio continued to crackle with unusual traffic that Reese pointedly ignored. "Think you're pretty smart, don't you?" Reese's eyes found hers in the rearview mirror. "All those fancy credentials, those important connections you keep hinting at." Lena said nothing, instead noting the street signs as they passed. Each turn, each landmark locked into her memory, habits from decades of intelligence work that had never faded. "Silent treatment now?" Reese's voice grew harder. "That attitude's what got you into this mess. But go ahead, keep acting superior. See where that gets you." The second patrol car's lights flashed behind them, Lang following at a precise distance. Through the rear window, Lena could see him talking into his radio, his expression troubled. She knew he had seen something on his computer terminal that disturbed him. Probably the first waves of federal inquiries hitting their system. Miles away at the Pentagon, Garrett Brooks stood in his dress uniform, phone pressed to his ear. The banquet hall buzzed with pre-event activity behind him, but his focus was laser sharp. "Yes, immediately," he said to the military legal counsel. "I want the Inspector General's office notified, and I need civilian oversight contacted. This isn't just about my wife. This is about abuse of power caught on camera." The lawyer's response was quick. "Already reaching out to federal liaisons, sir." "Then push harder."
"But the tumor."
Garrett's voice was calm, but carried the weight of decades of command. "They arrested a former intelligence officer with active federal clearance based on nothing but prejudice. Make them understand the gravity of their mistake." Back in the patrol car, Reese took a sharp turn that sent Lena sliding across the seat. "Oops," he said, not bothering to hide his satisfaction. "These roads can be tricky." Lena steadied herself, noting the street signs. Reese's growing agitation showed in every aggressive acceleration, every jerky stop at traffic lights. "You know what I think?" Reese's voice had taken on a taunting edge. "I think you're just another con artist who got hold of some good forgeries. Probably thought you could fool everyone with that Calm Act, that fancy car, those federal IDs." He was trying to provoke her, she realized. Every word was calculated to make her angry, to give him something he could write up as combative behavior in his report. The tactic was transparent, almost amateur in its obviousness. At the Belhaven Police Department, Chief Denise Richards set down her phone with a frown. The call she'd just received had been oddly vague, but carried clear warnings. The suspect being brought in had significant federal connections that needed to be verified before processing. Her office intercom buzzed. "Chief, we've got multiple inquiries coming in about a detention in progress. Something about federal oversight and military legal counsel." Before she could respond, the radio on her desk crackled with Reese's voice. "Station, Unit 47, coming in with one for booking. Need to process quickly. Suspect involved in potential identity theft and fraud." Richards heard the strain in his voice, the forced authority covering something else. She'd known Reese long enough to recognize when he was trying to establish his version of events before questions could be asked. The patrol car passed another intersection. Through the gathering dusk, Lena could see the police station's lights ahead, harsh fluorescent against the darkening sky. She noted the time again. Moments had passed since leaving the gas station, but she could feel the shift in power dynamics. Reese wasn't acting from authority anymore. He was acting from fear. Lang's car stayed close behind, its presence a reminder of the younger officer's witnessed hesitation. Through the gathering dusk, Lena could see the police station's lights ahead, harsh fluorescent against the darkening sky. She noted the officers standing near the entrance, their postures suggesting they were waiting specifically for this arrival. One held a phone to his ear, gesturing with obvious concern. The fluorescent lights hummed mercilessly as Reese marched Lena through the station's booking area. Officers looked up from their desks, their whispered conversations growing quiet as they caught her name during processing. The institutional smell of cleaning products and stale coffee hung in the air. "Name for the record," the booking officer demanded, not looking up from his computer. "Lena Marie Brooks," she stated clearly, her voice carrying across the now hushed room. Several heads turned. One officer stopped mid-conversation on his phone, his expression shifting from bored to concerned. Reese stepped forward, slapping a preliminary charge sheet onto the desk. "Booking her for obstruction, failure to properly identify, and suspected fraudulent use of federal credentials." His voice was loud, performative, as if trying to convince everyone within earshot. "I require legal counsel," Lena said firmly, "and I'd like to speak with your commanding officer." The booking officer glanced uncertainly at Lieutenant Wade, who stood near his office door watching the proceedings. Wade, a career bureaucrat, more interested in following procedure than questioning it, merely nodded for them to continue processing. Counsel can be arranged once booking is complete, Wade said flatly. Process her first. Officer Lang hovered near the edge of the booking desk, shifting his weight from foot to foot. His hand kept moving toward his pocket where his phone sat, then pulling back, his face a mask of indecision. The young officer's discomfort was visible as Lena was photographed and fingerprinted. Remove any jewelry, the booking officer instructed. With steady hands, Lena unclasped her necklace, a simple gold chain with her wedding ring threaded onto it. A habit from her intelligence days when rings could be dangerous in the field. The booking officer dropped it into a plastic evidence bag with mechanical indifference. I need to document these charges properly, Reese insisted, hovering over the booking officer's shoulder. Make sure everything's noted about her aggressive non-compliance at the scene. I was neither aggressive nor non-compliant, Lena stated calmly, and I believe the bystander videos will confirm that. Reese's face flushed red. You refuse to... I refuse to accept unlawful detention, Lena interrupted, her voice level. There's a difference. Across town, Garrett Brooks' influence was beginning to land with seismic force. A Defense Department legal liaison was on the phone with the state's public safety office, his words carrying the full weight of Pentagon authority. We have a situation in Belhaven that requires immediate attention, the liaison stated. A retired federal intelligence officer with active clearance has been detained without cause. This is now a matter of military family security protocol. The public safety officer's response was immediate, sending notification to Belhaven command staff now. Who exactly was detained? Lena Brooks, wife of General Garrett Brooks. There was a long pause on the line. 4-star General Brooks? The same. In her office across town, Chief Denise Richards was just finishing a budget meeting when her phone lit up with multiple high-priority messages. She opened the first one and felt her stomach drop. The name Lena Brooks jumped out at her, followed by terms like federal oversight and military liaison. Her phone rang immediately after. Chief Richards, the state public safety director's voice was tense. Are you aware that your department has arrested the wife of a 4-star general? Richards felt her professional composure crack slightly. I was just notified of a detention, but not the full circumstances. I'm heading to the station now. Fix this, the director ordered. The Pentagon has already been involved for less than moments after the initial detention. This is about to become a nightmare if it's not handled properly. Back at the station, Lena stood with perfect posture as her belongings were cataloged. Her phone, her purse, her car keys. Each item tagged and bagged while Reese stood nearby, his earlier bravado cracking under the increasing number of worried glances from his colleagues. Through the station's windows, emergency lights suddenly reflected off the walls. A vehicle had pulled up fast outside. The front doors burst open as Chief Denise Richards strode in, her face a mask of controlled alarm. She took in the scene. Lena standing dignified in custody, Reese trying to appear busy with paperwork, Lang looking like he wanted to disappear. Why is Lena Brooks in a holding cell? Richards demanded, her voice cutting through the station's uneasy quiet. The fluorescent lights continued their relentless buzzing, highlighting the growing tension in the room. Every officer present seemed to be holding their breath, aware that they were watching the beginning of what could become a career-ending disaster for everyone involved. The harsh fluorescent lights cast stark shadows across the holding area, as Chief Richards's heels clicked sharply against the linoleum floor. She found Lena Brooks sitting perfectly straight on the metal bench, her hands folded in her lap where faint red marks from the handcuffs were still visible. Despite the institutional surroundings, Lena's composure remained unshaken. Get this cell opened right now, Richards ordered, her voice tight with controlled panic. The attending officer fumbled with his keys, the metal jangling loudly in the tense silence. "Mrs. Brooks," Richards said, adopting a diplomatic tone as the cell door swung open. "I want to personally apologize for this unfortunate misunderstanding. We'll have you out of here immediately." Lena stood slowly, her movements deliberate. "A misunderstanding," she repeated, her voice level but carrying an edge that made Richards shift uncomfortably. "Is that what we're calling unlawful detention now?" The situation escalated unnecessarily, Richards offered, gesturing toward the corridor. "I assure you we can correct any paperwork and resolve this quickly." "The paperwork?" Lena's gaze was steady. "Will correcting paperwork erase the spectacle of my arrest at that gas station? Will it undo Officer Reese's false charges? Or perhaps it will magically make everyone forget watching me being handcuffed without cause?" From a speakerphone in Richards' office, General Garrett Brooks' voice carried through the open door. "Chief Richards, I want to be absolutely clear. My wife will not be pressured into quietly accepting what's happened here." Richards glanced toward her office where the conference call with Washington remained active. "General Brooks, I understand your concern. We're working to—" "You don't understand yet," Garrett interrupted, his calm tone carrying decades of command authority. "But you will. A civil rights attorney, Lila Quinn, is already en route to your station. I suggest you ensure all evidence is properly preserved until she arrives." Officer Reese burst into the holding area, his face flushed. "Chief, I can explain everything." "Explain what exactly?" Lena turned to face him. "The vehicle matched—" "Matched what exactly?" Lena asked. "The registration and insurance were in order. My federal credentials were valid. What exactly justified your actions?" Reese's mouth opened and closed, but no coherent defense emerged. The documents found in Lena's car had demolished his claims of suspicious activity or vehicle theft. His earlier certainty crumbled under her direct gaze. Richards watched the exchange with growing dread. She had seen enough internal affairs cases to recognize when a situation was spiraling beyond containment. "Lieutenant," she called to Wade, who hovered nearby, "I want all body camera footage from Officers Reese and Lang preserved immediately. Get me the dispatch recordings and any security footage from the gas station as well." "Already done, Chief," Wade replied quietly. The State Oversight Office called. They were insistent about proper evidence preservation. The fluorescent lights continued their merciless humming as Richards led Lena toward the booking area to process her release. Each step echoed with the weight of consequences neither Reese nor the department had anticipated moments ago. "Your personal effects are being gathered," Richards said, trying to maintain professional courtesy. "Your vehicle will be brought around front." "My vehicle never should have been impounded," Lena stated, "just as I never should have been arrested. Let's be very clear about that, Chief Richards." In the main office, Officer Lang sat at his desk, looking increasingly ill as he reviewed his own body camera footage. The video showed exactly what Lena had described: an immediate escalation without cause, Reese's dismissal of valid identification, and the deliberate humiliation of a woman who had done nothing wrong. The booking officer returned with Lena's belongings in a plastic property bag. Her phone showed multiple missed calls from military and civilian contacts. The necklace with her wedding ring was carefully removed from its evidence bag, and Lena placed it back around her neck with dignity that made several officers avert their eyes. Through the station's front windows, camera flashes began popping as reporters gathered on the sidewalk. News traveled fast in Belhaven, and the arrest of a four-star general's wife was exactly the kind of story that drew media attention like moths to flame. A sleek black sedan pulled up to the curb, and a woman in a sharp business suit stepped out, briefcase in hand. Lila Quinn's reputation preceded her. She had successfully handled multiple civil rights cases against law enforcement agencies. Her arrival made Chief Richards's stomach tighten with professional dread. "Mrs. Brooks," Richards tried one final time. "I want to assure you that the department will be held accountable. Not because of who my husband is," Lena finished quietly, "but because what happened today was wrong, and it happens to people without my connections every day in places just like this." The front doors opened, and Lila Quinn strode into the station, her heels clicking against the floor with purpose. The reporters outside pressed closer to the windows, cameras raised as the story they sensed was about to become even bigger than they imagined. The fluorescent lights hummed in the small interview room as Lila Quinn settled her briefcase on the metal table. Through the frosted glass, camera flashes flickered like distant lightning. Lena sat with perfect posture, her hands folded neatly on the scratched surface. Despite the institutional surroundings, Lena's composure remained unshaken. "Don't let them rush you out of here," Lila advised, pulling out a legal pad. "Chief Richards wants this wrapped up quickly, but we need to be thorough. Have they given you documentation showing all charges are formally dropped?" "They just processed my release papers," Lena replied. "The desk sergeant seemed eager to get me out the door." Lila's eyes narrowed. "Let me check something." She stepped out briefly and returned with a young clerk who clutched a manila folder. "The charges are currently marked as pending review," the clerk explained, shifting uncomfortably under Lila's sharp gaze. "Pending review?" Lila's voice could have cut steel. "So they're maintaining the option to pursue charges after the media attention dies down?" "Absolutely not." She turned to Lena. "This is a classic move. Release you now to diffuse tension, then quietly process charges later when nobody's watching." The clerk backed toward the door. "I'll let Chief Richards know you have questions about the status." Through the window, more camera flashes illuminated the parking lot. Riley Vance pushed through the gathered reporters, her press badge catching the light. Inside, she pulled out her phone, comparing the bystander videos she'd seen online with the scene unfolding before her. The department's attempt to minimize the incident already clashed with the raw footage showing Reese's aggressive approach and Lena's calm dignity. Lena's phone buzzed. A secure video call from Garrett. His face appeared on the screen, command presence intact despite the worry in his eyes. "I can be there in moments," he said without preamble. "The Joint Chiefs will understand." "No," Lena replied firmly. "Stay where you have the most impact. This isn't about using rank to fix one incident. It's about making sure they can't bury what happened." "You're sure?" His concern was evident even through the encrypted connection. "I'm sure. Use the channels that matter. Make the system work the way it should." Lena's voice held the same steady authority it had maintained throughout the ordeal. A knock at the door preceded Chief Richards's entrance. She'd switched to a more conciliatory tone, but tension lined her face. "Mrs. Brooks, we can have an officer drive you to a hotel," she offered. "There's no need to deal with the media circus out front." "Actually, there is," Lila interjected. "My client was publicly humiliated without cause. She'll leave publicly on her own terms, not sneaked out the back like someone who has something to hide." "The department has apologized," Richards began. "Verbally," Lila cut in, "while maintaining pending charges and refusing to acknowledge wrongdoing. That's not an apology, Chief Richards. That's damage control." Outside the interview room, Riley watched Officer Lang slump at his desk, staring at his incident report. His discomfort was visible as he glanced between the blank form and his body camera footage, playing silently on his monitor. Reese paced near the break room, his earlier arrogance curdled into defensive anger. "She was argumentative," he muttered to anyone who would listen, refusing to comply. "The videos show otherwise," Riley spoke up, making notes. "In fact, they show quite clearly that you escalated without cause." Reese's face darkened. "Press isn't allowed back here." "Public building," Riley replied calmly. "And this is a story of public interest." Back in the interview room, Lila gathered her materials. "We're ready to leave through the front door." "The media," Richard started. We'll see exactly who you arrested today, Lila finished. A respected military spouse and retired federal employee who committed no crime but was treated like a criminal. That's not our problem to manage, Chief Richards. It's yours. Lena stood, smoothing her jacket. Despite hours in a holding cell, she carried herself with unshakable composure. Her wedding ring caught the light as she adjusted her necklace. One more thing, Lila added. We'll need copies of all footage, radio traffic, and documents related to this incident. I'm sure you understand why. Richards's jaw tightened, but she nodded to the records clerk hovering nearby. They moved toward the lobby where the media lights created a wall of white through the glass doors. Riley Vance watched Lena's measured steps, noting how officers moved aside, some averting their eyes. This wasn't just about one bad arrest or one officer's prejudice. This was about power, accountability, and what happened when the system chose the wrong target. Lena paused at the doors, squaring her shoulders. Camera flashes sparked like lightning against the glass. Behind her, Reese stood in the hallway, his face twisted with the realization that his actions had sparked something far beyond his control. Lang remained at his desk, still staring at his blank report form. Lila placed a steady hand on the door. Ready? Lena nodded, her dignity intact despite everything they'd put her through. Ready. In the quiet of room at the Bellhaven Motor Lodge, Lena sat in an armchair beneath flickering fluorescent lights, her hands steady as she arranged her thoughts. Lila Quinn spread documents across the small table, while Riley Vance's recorder blinked red. Garrett's face watched from a secure tablet propped against a lamp. Start from the beginning, Lila said. Pen poised. Every detail matters. Lena's voice remained measured, professional. I pulled in. The station wasn't busy, maybe 4 other vehicles total. I noticed the cashier watching me through the window before I even got out of the car. This would be Lorna Tate, Riley confirmed, checking her notes. Yes. When I went inside to pay, she held my ID longer than necessary, studying it like she expected to find something wrong. I bought water and coffee, paid cash. As I was leaving, I saw her pick up the phone. Riley's pen moved quickly. Did you hear the call? No, but her body language changed completely when she made it. She turned away, spoke quietly. It wasn't a casual conversation. And outside? Lila prompted. A man in a red pickup truck was watching me pump gas. He said, loud enough for others to hear, she doesn't look like she belongs in that car. I chose not to engage. That's when the first patrol car arrived. Garrett's jaw tightened on the screen. Officer Reese approached immediately aggressive, demanding to know why I was lingering. When I explained I was simply getting gas, he insisted the vehicle matched a suspicious report. But he never provided any details about this supposed report. Riley looked up from her notebook. The bystander videos start around here, but they miss this initial context. The narrative begins mid-confrontation. Officer Lang arrived second. Lena continued. He stayed back, watched everything. When I mentioned my registration was in the glove compartment, he asked politely, but Reese interrupted, said I needed to keep my hands visible at all times. Lila made another note. He was building a paper trail of non-compliance. Yes, every calm response was treated as defiance. When they found my federal credentials, Reese claimed they must be fake. That's when he decided to arrest me for fraud. Garrett's voice carried barely controlled anger. The credentials were legitimate, multiple forms of ID, all ignored. We need to move quickly, Lila said. By morning, they'll have their story straight. They'll paint this as a reasonable mistake based on available information. Riley scrolled through her phone. The videos are spreading, but they're fragmentary. We need the full station security footage, dispatch recordings. There's something else, Lena said quietly. She reached for her retrieved phone. When I was first detained, I activated an emergency protocol, something from my intelligence work days. It sends location data and partial audio metadata to secure servers. Lila straightened. You have transmission records from the actual arrest? Yes. The system captured GPS coordinates and sound pattern data before Reese took my phone. It won't have complete audio, but it proves I triggered a real-time emergency alert. The timestamp will match dispatch records. That's crucial, Riley said. It shows you had immediate concern for your safety, enough to activate official protocols, and it contradicts any claim that this was a routine stop that simply went wrong. Garrett nodded on screen. Federal Civil Rights Division is aware and monitoring, but they can't simply take over local jurisdiction without clear evidence of rights violations, which is why we need to secure everything tonight, Riley said, standing. Witnesses remember details better immediately after events, and footage has a way of developing technical problems when departments have time to review it. Lena watched the young journalist gather her things. Be careful. Reese won't appreciate you digging. I'm counting on it, Riley replied. His reaction to questions will tell its own story. Lila began organizing files. We'll need statements from the gas station customers who recorded videos, and we should request Officer Lang's separate account before the department coordinates responses. He wanted to speak up, Lena noted. I saw it in his face when Reese escalated. He knew something was wrong. Garrett's voice carried authority even through the tablet speaker. This isn't over just because they released you. They'll try to minimize everything, make it disappear, which is exactly why it can't disappear, Lena said firmly. This wasn't about me. It was about power and assumptions and what happens when no one speaks up. Riley checked her phone one last time. The gas station closes at closing time. If I leave now, I can catch the night shift workers before they head home. Lila handed her a card. Call immediately if anyone gives you trouble. And Riley, get everything on record. Every word. The journalist nodded, shouldering her bag. The room felt heavy with purpose as she moved toward the door. Outside, Bellhaven streets were quiet except for occasional police cruisers making slow passes past the motel. We should review your statement again, Lila said to Lena as Riley left. The timeline needs to be absolutely precise. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight. In the soft lamplight, Lena's composure remained unshaken as she prepared to revisit every moment of her humiliation. Not for revenge, but for accountability. The fluorescent lights of the Bellhaven Gas and Go cast harsh shadows across the nearly empty parking lot as Riley pulled in just after closing time. Only two other vehicles remained, a battered maintenance truck and what appeared to be the night clerk's sedan. The neon open sign buzzed faintly, creating an eerie glow against the dark windows. Inside the hotel room across town, Lena sat at the small desk, methodically reviewing her handwritten account, while Lila cross-referenced times and locations. The scratching of their pens filled the quiet room. Riley pushed through the gas station's glass door, triggering a tired electronic chime. Behind the counter, a young man with sandy hair and a name tag reading Mike looked up from his phone. We're still open for another hour, he said automatically. I'm Riley Vance with the Bellhaven Herald, she replied, showing her press badge. I need to speak with Lorna Tate about an incident that occurred here earlier today. Mike shifted uncomfortably. Lorna left early. Said she wasn't feeling good after what happened. Manager let her go home around closing time. Feeling shaken up, was she? Riley pressed, pulling out her notebook. About calling the police on an innocent woman? Look, I just started my shift at closing time East, Mike said, but his eyes darted away. I wasn't here for any of that. But you've heard about it. What exactly did Lorna tell you during shift change? Mike hesitated. Just that there was some trouble with a customer, but she seemed really nervous. Kept saying how fast the police showed up after she called, like way faster than normal. Riley's pen moved quickly. How fast do police usually respond to calls from this location? Depends. Maybe 15 or 20 minutes for something routine. But today? He shook his head. Lorna said it was like they were waiting around the corner, Couldn't have been more than a few minutes. Yet, looking up from her notes, Riley spotted the surveillance cameras mounted in the corners. I'll need to speak with the owner about preserving all security footage from today. That's Mr. Whitaker. He's not here this late. Riley was already pulling up the gas station's business listing on her phone. Then I'll call him at home. This is time sensitive. Back at the hotel, Lila's laptop screen illuminated her focused expression as she drafted urgent legal notices. We need to demand immediate preservation of all video evidence, radio traffic, dispatch logs, and booking documentation, she explained to Lena. Once these notices are served, destroying or altering records becomes a separate offense. Lena nodded, but her mind kept returning to the crowd at the gas station. What bothers me most isn't Reese's behavior. We expect some officers to abuse power, but all those people just watched. No one spoke up. The bystander effect, Lila said quietly. Everyone assumes someone else will intervene. The tablet on the desk lit up with Garrett's incoming call. His face appeared, looking tired but determined. I've made arrangements to fly in at dawn, he said, and I've been speaking with Judge Marshall. She's retired from the federal bench but still has connections. She can recommend civil rights attorneys who specialize in cases like this. Good, Lila replied. We'll need strong representation. Local counsel won't be enough for what's coming. Lena's phone buzzed with a news alert. She opened it and felt her stomach tighten. They're already spinning their story. The Bellhaven Police Department had just issued a statement. Earlier today, officers responded to reports of suspicious activity at a local business. The subject in question initially refused to comply with lawful commands during a routine investigation. While regrettable, all actions taken by officers were appropriate and in accordance with department policy regarding suspicious vehicle alerts and potential identity fraud. We are reviewing the incident internally, but maintain that proper procedures were followed. Lila read over Lena's shoulder and swore softly. They're not even waiting until morning to start the cover-up. They're calling me the subject, Lena said, her voice steady but tight, dehumanizing what they did, making it clinical. At the gas station, Riley's persistent calls finally reached Mr. Whitaker. After explaining the situation and hinting at possible media coverage of evidence destruction, she secured his promise not to override the surveillance footage. The night clerk Mike had become more talkative once he realized Riley was investigating the department rather than the gas station. Lorna's not a bad person, he insisted, but she gets nervous around certain customers, you know? Calls the cops too quick sometimes. And the officers encourage that? Riley asked. Mike nodded. They tell us better safe than sorry. Report anything suspicious. He paused. But what happened today? That wasn't right. That lady wasn't doing anything wrong. The clock on the wall ticked past closing time as Lena read the police statement again on her phone. Each carefully crafted line twisted reality, transformed her dignity into defiance, her composure into non-compliance. They had taken her humiliation and reframed it as justified procedure. So, that's how they want to play this, she said quietly. Garrett's voice came through the tablet, firm with conviction. Then we'll show them exactly who they chose to target. The digital clock on the motel nightstand blinked as Garrett's plane touched down at the regional airport. In the motel room, Lena watched the sun begin to rise over a town that had wronged her and now sought to deny that wrong had ever occurred. The motel room door opened softly as Garrett Brooks entered, still in his formal military attire from the previous evening's interrupted banquet. Lena stood from her position at the desk, her posture straight despite the exhaustion evident in her eyes. The couple shared a quiet moment, exchanging a look that carried decades of shared strength. You didn't have to come, Lena said, though her hand reached for his. Yes, I did, Garrett replied simply, his calm presence filling the room without dominating it. He studied her face, noting the marks on her wrists from the handcuffs, but followed her lead in maintaining composure. Lila looked up from her laptop, giving them a moment before speaking. "General Brooks, we need to move quickly this morning. Bellhaven PD is already working to control the narrative." "I'm aware," Garrett nodded, setting his briefcase down. "And please call me Garrett. We're all on equal footing here." He turned to Lena. "This is your fight. Tell me how I can support you." Lena gestured to the papers spread across the room. "We've been mapping out our immediate priorities. The gas station footage is critical. We need to secure it before anyone can suggest technical difficulties with those cameras too." "I've drafted preservation letters," Lila added, holding up a stack of documents. "We need to serve them immediately, not just to the station, but to dispatch the department and any business with security cameras in line of sight." The door opened again as Riley entered, carrying fresh coffee and a determined expression. "I've got something," she announced, setting the drinks down. "2 witnesses are ready to go on record, including Marcus Weber, a truck driver who is filling up at the far pump." "What did he capture?" Lila asked, immediately alert. "Video and audio from before Reese even approached Lena," Riley explained, pulling up the clip on her phone. "Weber was suspicious of how the officers arrived so quickly, so he started recording early. You can hear Reese's tone from the start. Aggressive, accusatory. There's no evidence of resistance because there wasn't any." Lena watched the small screen, her expression tightening as she relived the moment. Garrett placed a steady hand on her shoulder but remained silent, letting her process the footage on her own terms. "This directly contradicts their statement about your behavior," Lila noted, already making notes. "Weber's willing to sign an affidavit?" Riley nodded. "He's a regular long-haul driver. No criminal record, no agenda. Just a citizen who recognized injustice when he saw it. He's waiting at the truck stop down the road, ready to make a formal statement." "We need to move now," Lena decided, gathering her belongings. "The gas station opens for morning rush in less than an hour. Once the day starts flowing, it'll be harder to access their systems without interruption." The group moved with purpose, taking 2 cars to maintain mobility. Garrett drove Lena, while Lila and Riley followed, all arriving at the Bellhaven Gas and Go just as the manager Tom Whitaker was unlocking the front doors. "Mr. Whitaker," Lila called out, approaching with her credentials ready. "I'm Lila Quinn, legal counsel for Mrs. Brooks. We spoke by phone earlier about preserving your security footage." Whitaker glanced nervously between the group and the empty street. "Look, I don't want any trouble. This is a small town." "There won't be any trouble," Garrett assured him, his presence professional rather than intimidating. "We're simply here to secure evidence before it can be lost or altered." "The preservation letter protects you legally," Lila explained, handing him the document. "It shows you complied with proper procedure." Whitaker read the letter quickly, then nodded. "The system's in my office. It keeps footage before overwriting." He led them inside, past the counter where Lorna Tate had made her suspicious call the previous evening. The security setup was basic but functional. 4 exterior cameras and 2 interior, all recording continuously. Whitaker pulled up the previous day's timeline, and the group watched as Lena's sedan appeared on screen. The footage was telling. From the moment she pulled in, every movement was calm and deliberate. She paid for her gas, made her small purchases, and returned to her car without incident. The interior camera caught Lorna Tate's furtive phone call, and the exterior views showed the rapid arrival of patrol cars that followed. Most importantly, the cameras captured the entire interaction with crystal clarity. Lena's composed responses, Reese's aggressive stance, the unnecessary escalation to handcuffs. There was no resistance, no suspicious behavior, nothing to justify the force used or the charges filed. Lila began the process of properly downloading and documenting the video files, while Riley took detailed notes about camera angles and timestamps. Lena watched the scene unfold again on the monitor, her dignity intact even as she relived the humiliation. The final frame showed Officer Reese taking physical control of a situation that had never required force. His hand on Lena's arm, his posture rigid with unearned authority, his expression showing satisfaction rather than concern for public safety. The county administration building loomed stark against the morning sky as Lena, Garrett, Lila, and Riley made their way through security. The conference room on the third floor already held a mix of tense energy and starched professionalism. Two state investigators sat reviewing preliminary reports while Chief Denise Richards stood by the window, her blazer perfectly pressed, her expression carefully neutral. "Mrs. Brooks," Richards said, stepping forward with an extended hand, "I want to personally express my regret for any inconvenience." "Let's save the apologies for after we review the evidence," Lila interrupted, setting up her laptop. The state investigators, Martinez and Collins, straightened in their chairs. Richards took her seat, smoothing her jacket. "Of course. We're here to establish the full context of last evening's incident." Officer Reese was responding to what he believed was a credible vehicle theft concern. "That's not supported by the evidence," Lila said, turning her screen to face the room. "We have complete footage from the gas station, starting with Mrs. Brooks's arrival." The video played in silence. Wena's calm transaction inside, the cashier's furtive call, the rapid arrival of patrol cars that suggested prejudgment rather than investigation. "As you can see," Lila continued, "there was no suspicious behavior to justify the initial approach. Mrs. Brooks provided her registration when asked. The vehicle was properly registered in her name." Martinez made notes while Collins studied the footage. "Chief Richards, when exactly was the vehicle theft alert issued?" Richards shifted slightly. "We're still confirming the exact timeline of the dispatch log. Because we have no record of any such alert in the system prior to Mrs. Brooks' arrival at the gas station," Collins said. "The first mention appears after Officer Reese was already on scene." The room temperature seemed to drop a few degrees. Richards maintained her professional demeanor, but her fingers tightened around her pen. "Officers sometimes receive verbal notifications that may not immediately appear in the system." "That's not department protocol," Martinez noted. A knock at the door interrupted them. A junior officer stepped in, speaking quietly to Richards. She nodded, looking troubled. "Officer Lang has requested to speak with the investigators," she announced. "He's currently being questioned about the incident down the hall." "We should hear what he has to say," Collins decided, standing. "Let's take a break." Lila exchanged glances with Lena. This wasn't in their morning strategy, but it could work in their favor. Garrett remained quietly observant, his military bearing a steady presence in the room. When Collins and Martinez returned, their expressions had shifted. The professional distance had been replaced by focused intensity. "Chief Richards," Collins said, "Officer Lang has provided some concerning information about last night's arrest procedures." Richards sat straighter. "Officer Lang is a junior officer who may not have fully understood. He specifically stated that he observed Mrs. Brooks' valid identification and registration during the initial contact," Martinez cut in. "He claims he voiced these concerns to Officer Reese before the arrest was made." "More significantly," Collins added, "he reports being instructed to maintain the vehicle theft narrative regardless of contrary evidence. That suggests deliberate falsification of probable cause." Riley, who had been taking careful notes, looked up sharply. Her phone buzzed with incoming messages about the department's earlier statement. The online response was already turning against Belhaven's version of events. "Chief Richards," Lila said, "your department issued a statement claiming Mrs. Brooks resisted lawful commands. We now have multiple video angles showing that never happened. We have an officer admitting to being pressured to support a false narrative, and we have clear evidence that proper procedure was ignored from the moment your officers arrived on scene." Richards glanced at her department's legal counsel, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. We take these concerns very seriously, she began, but her usual polish was cracking. If any procedural errors occurred— This goes well beyond procedural errors, Martinez interrupted. We're looking at potential civil rights violations, falsification of official reports, and unlawful detention based on apparent bias. The morning sun had climbed higher, casting harsh light through the windows. Lena sat composed, her presence a silent rebuke to every attempt to minimize what had been done to her. I think we need to expand this investigation, Collins announced, closing his notebook. Chief Richards will need complete access to your department's records, including any communications from last night. And Officer Reese's personnel file, Martinez added. Riley's phone buzzed again. The video clips were spreading online, along with witness statements that contradicted the department's official position. Belhaven's attempt to control the narrative was unraveling by the hour. We'll break for lunch, Collins said, checking his watch. When we reconvene, we need to discuss proper preservation of evidence and witness statements. As the room began to clear, Lila's phone lit up with an incoming message. She read it quickly, then turned to Lena and Garrett. The Federal Civil Rights Division is sending attorneys, she said quietly. They'll be here by this afternoon. Riley's fingers flew across her keyboard in the fluorescent-lit newsroom of the Belhaven Herald. 3 monitors surrounded her, one displaying the gas station security footage, another showing witness videos, and the third with her draft article. The afternoon sun filtered through dusty Venetian blinds as she cross-referenced every detail. The footage needs to be unimpeachable, she muttered, replaying the critical moments. The security camera had captured Lena's initial transaction, her composed demeanor, and the cashier's suspicious glances. Riley noted the timestamp. Moments later, patrol cars appeared. Her phone buzzed with a text from Layla. Green light on footage release. State investigators have secured originals. 2 desks over her editor, Thomas leaned back in his chair. You better be damn sure about every word, Riley. This isn't just local anymore. That's why I'm triple-checking everything, she replied, not looking up. She had arranged the evidence chronologically. Gas station arrival, suspicious call, police response, escalation, and arrest. Each point was documented with either video evidence or witness statements. In a nearby office building, Lena and Garrett sat with Lila reviewing printed copies of Riley's draft. Lila highlighted sections that aligned with their legal strategy while explaining which details needed to wait. The timeline is crucial, Lila said, circling a paragraph. It shows how quickly they escalated without cause, but we hold back the specifics of your emergency alert system for now. That's part of our broader case. Lena nodded, studying the draft. The facts speak for themselves. No need for dramatic language. Garrett's phone lit up with updates from the Pentagon's legal office. Federal attorneys were already reviewing jurisdiction questions and civil rights implications. But the immediate focus remained on Riley's story, the first comprehensive public account of what happened. At the police station, state investigators Martinez and Collins methodically collected records. They found dispatch logs, radio communications, and internal emails from the previous night. The department's IT specialist watched nervously as they copied server data. All communications regarding Mrs. Brooks' arrest need to be preserved, Martinez instructed. Any deletion or alteration of records will have serious consequences. Chief Denise Richards paced in her office, phone pressed to her ear. The mayor wanted updates. The county commissioner was asking questions. The department's statement from the previous night looked increasingly foolish as more evidence emerged. We're preparing a revised statement, she assured them. Our officers were working under difficult circumstances with limited information. But even as she spoke, Riley was embedding the bystander's video into her article. The clip's audio captured Reese's tone clearly. Step away from the vehicle now. You better start explaining what you're doing here. Lena's measured response. I've shown you my registration and ID. What law have I broken? Reese, don't get smart with me. People passing through don't drive cars like this. Riley typed rapidly, letting the exchange speak for itself. She included Lang's presence in the background, his visible hesitation when the documents proved legitimate. The security footage showed the growing crowd of witnesses, phones raised to record the injustice unfolding. At closing time, Riley sent the final draft for editorial review. By shortly after the story was live on the Herald's website with the headline, "Video Evidence Contradicts Police Account of Brooks' Arrest." The article spread quickly. National news outlets picked it up within minutes. Social media exploded with clips showing Lena's dignity contrasted against Reese's aggression. Comment sections filled with outrage as readers saw the moment Reese dismissed valid federal credentials. In the temporary legal office, Lila's phone began ringing constantly. Other civil rights attorneys wanted to consult. More witnesses came forward. The truck driver who filmed the crucial audio agreed to a formal statement. "The public response is overwhelming," Lila told Lena and Garrett. "Belhaven can't contain this anymore." At City Hall, officials huddled in emergency meetings. The mayor's office drafted statements distancing themselves from Reese's actions. HR began reviewing his personnel file, finding previous complaints that suddenly seemed more significant. Chief Richards watched her careful defenses crumble. The uncertain circumstances excuse fell flat against video, showing a calm woman being handcuffed for buying gas. The department's credibility eroded with each social media share. By late afternoon, Belhaven's city attorney advised Richards that Reese had become a liability. His continued administrative leave with pay was drawing criticism. The department needed to act. "Bring him in," the attorney said. "We need to address this head on." Richards made the call, not to Reese's home number, but to his union representative. The message was clear: report to the station immediately. In the Herald's newsroom, Riley watched the view counter on her article climb. National broadcasts were picking up the security footage. Every refresh brought more comments, more shares, more public demands for accountability. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the blinds as Reese's patrol car pulled into the station parking lot. This time he entered through a side door away from gathering media crews. The officer who had confidently arrested Lena Brooks now walked quickly, head down, no longer carrying the authority he had wielded so carelessly the night before. The late afternoon sun cast harsh shadows across the Belhaven Police Department's brick facade. News vans lined the street, their satellite dishes reaching skyward like metal trees. State investigators' vehicles crowded the parking lot, their official plates gleaming. Inside, Dale Reese sat rigid in a conference room chair, his uniform still crisp, but his confidence cracking. Chief Denise Richards stood near the window, arms crossed, while two state investigators spread documents across the table. "Officer Reese," Investigator Martinez began, "we have some serious discrepancies to address." He laid out 3 items: the gas station surveillance footage, Reese's incident report, and the dispatch log. "Your timeline doesn't match the video evidence." Reese shifted in his chair. It was a high-stress situation. The subject was Mrs. Brooks, Chief Richards corrected sharply. "Her name is Lena Brooks." "Mrs. Brooks," Reese continued, his jaw tight, appeared suspicious. "I had reason to believe," Martinez cut him off. "Let's review the suspicious vehicle alert you cited." He pulled out another document. "We've checked every database. There was no matching alert in the system at the time of the stop." Sweat beaded on Reese's forehead. The room felt smaller by the minute. Through the window, he could see more media arriving, more cameras setting up. "Officer Lang has provided a statement," Investigator Collins added, sliding a transcript forward. "He confirms you dismissed valid federal credentials and ordered him to maintain the vehicle theft narrative despite contrary evidence." "Lang doesn't understand proper procedure," Reese protested, but his voice lacked conviction. In uncertain situations. The gas station footage shows no uncertainty, Martinez interrupted. We have clear audio of your approach, your immediate hostility, and Mrs. Brooks' calm compliance. You escalated a routine stop into an unlawful detention. Outside the conference room, Lila Vale conferred with federal civil rights attorneys, while Lena and Garrett Brooks waited nearby. Riley Vance stood with other reporters in the lobby, her article now viral across national news platforms. Chief Richards turned from the window. Officer Reese, your actions have exposed this department to serious liability. Your report contains falsified information. You violated multiple protocols and, more importantly, a citizen's civil rights. Reese's face flushed. I was following training. No, Richards said firmly. You were following prejudice. The evidence is irrefutable. Martinez placed a final document on the table. The state attorney's office is filing criminal charges for unlawful detention, falsifying police reports, and civil rights violations. We're here to take you into custody. The color drained from Reese's face. You're arresting me? I'm an officer. Not anymore, Richard stated. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. Two state officers entered the conference room. Reese stared at the handcuffs in their hands, the same tool he had used to humiliate Lena Brooks less than a day ago. In the lobby, reporters pressed against the glass doors as Reese was led out. Camera flashes exploded like lightning. The man who had swaggered through an unlawful arrest now walked with slumped shoulders, his former colleagues watching in stunned silence. Chief Richards approached a hastily assembled podium outside. Camera crews jostled for position as she announced immediate departmental reforms, mandatory bias training, stricter oversight of stops and arrests, improved complaint procedures. Lila Quinn stepped forward next. Reforms are necessary but insufficient, she declared. The Brooks family will pursue full legal accountability, not just for Officer Reese's actions, but for the systemic failures that enabled them. Then Lena Brooks took the podium, Garrett standing supportively beside her. The crowd hushed. She wore the same dignified composure that had so irritated Reese the night before. What happened to me was wrong, she began, her voice clear and steady. But this isn't just about me. This happens to people every day, people without connections, without cameras present, without the ability to fight back. They deserve justice too. The gathered crowd murmured in agreement. Several officers shifted uncomfortably. True justice, Lena continued, isn't measured by how we treat the powerful. It's measured by how we protect those who usually go unheard. What matters now is ensuring that no one else faces what I face simply for existing in public space. Garrett watched proudly as his wife transformed a personal victory into a larger call for accountability. Riley's pen flew across her notebook, capturing every word. Inside the station, Officer Lang watched through a window as Reese was placed in a state police vehicle. Other officers gathered in small groups, their expressions a mix of shock and realization. The thin blue line had failed to protect one of their own, not because it was broken, but because it was finally working as it should. The evening sun painted the sky orange as the state police car pulled away. Reese's handcuffs glinted in the fading light, a symbol of justice served, not just for Lena Brooks, but for every person who had ever stood where she stood, dignified in the face of unwarranted suspicion. The setting sun painted the Bellhaven sky in shades of amber and purple as Lena's dark blue sedan pulled into the same gas station where everything had started less than a day ago. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting their harsh glow across the concrete just as they had the previous evening. But now the atmosphere carried a different weight. Garrett sat quietly in the passenger seat, letting Lena control this moment. She parked near Pump 3, the exact spot where Reese had first approached her. The evening air felt cooler now, or perhaps it was just the absence of yesterday's tension. Are you sure about this? Garrett asked softly, his military bearing softened by concern for his wife. Lena nodded, her composure unwavering. I need to do this. Not for them, for me. The store's glass front reflected the sunset's glow as Lena stepped out of the car. A young man behind the counter glanced up and quickly looked away, obviously briefed about yesterday's events. Two customers browsing the snack aisle fell silent as she entered, their discomfort palpable. The station owner, Mike Dawson, emerged from his office, his face flushed with anxiety. He was a tall man with graying hair who seemed to have aged years since yesterday. Mrs. Brooks, he stammered, I want to personally apologize for... Lena raised her hand, stopping him mid-sentence. I'm here to buy water, Mr. Dawson. Nothing more. Her voice was neither harsh nor forgiving, simply matter-of-fact. She wouldn't absolve them of responsibility just to make them feel better. The security cameras that had captured yesterday's injustice still blinked their red lights overhead. New signs near the register announced updated policies about customer service and non-discrimination. Dawson had clearly been busy trying to protect himself from liability. Lorna won't be working here anymore, Dawson offered awkwardly as Lena selected a bottle of water from the cooler. We're implementing new training. So because you were exposed, Lena stated calmly, placing her water on the counter, not because it was right. The owner fell silent, understanding the truth in her words. The young cashier rang up the purchase with trembling hands, avoiding eye contact. Through the windows, Lena could see Garrett waiting patiently in the car, his presence a reminder of the power structure that had ultimately forced accountability. A pickup truck pulled in, similar to the one whose driver had muttered about her not belonging yesterday. But today, the driver's eyes stayed fixed straight ahead, careful not to look at her. The whispers and stares of suspicion had been replaced by the awkward silence of shame. Lena took her time walking back to the car, her heels clicking against the concrete. She paused by pump 3, looking at the spot where she'd stood in handcuffs. The humiliation of that moment hadn't broken her. It had revealed the strength she'd always carried. The evening breeze rustled through nearby trees as more customers arrived, all of them suddenly very focused on their own business. No one watched her too closely now. No one questioned her right to be there. The power dynamic had shifted completely. Through the store window, she could see Dawson still hovering anxiously, probably worried about more legal consequences. He'd learned an expensive lesson about allowing prejudice to guide his business practices. The security footage that his cameras had captured would be crucial evidence in the civil case Lila was building. Riley's news story was still spreading across the country, forcing other departments to examine their own practices. Lang's testimony had opened cracks in Belhaven's blue wall of silence. Reese's arrest had shown that badges didn't guarantee immunity from consequences. Lena opened her car door and slid behind the wheel, placing the unopened water bottle in the cup holder. The same water bottle that had been part of her original purchase yesterday. A simple errand that had turned into a catalyst for change. Ready? Garrett asked, reaching over to squeeze her hand. Lena looked once more at the gas station. The lights, the pumps, the glass doors, all so ordinary and yet forever changed. She hadn't asked for this fight, but she had won it decisively, not through anger or vengeance, but through dignity and determination. Yes, she replied, starting the engine. I'm ready. The sedan pulled away from pump 3 as the sun dipped below the horizon. In her rear-view mirror, Lena could see the gas station growing smaller, not because she was running from it, but because she had already done what needed to be done. She had stood her ground, demanded justice, and forced a system to answer for its failures. Garrett adjusted his uniform collar, a small smile playing at his lips. You know, the Pentagon might have responded quickly, but you were the one who really handled it. Sometimes, Lena said, guiding the car onto the main road, justice needs witnesses, but it always needs someone willing to stand up and demand it. The gas station's lights faded into the gathering dusk behind them. Ahead, the highway stretched toward home, carrying them away from a place that would remember the night it learned that power didn't always work in predictable directions. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like to support my channel and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. On the screen, I have picked 2 special stories just for you. Have a wonderful day.